Cuba is facing nationwide blackouts, fuel lines that stretch for hours, and a grid on the verge of collapse. The Cuban government ran out of hard currency to buy fuel on the open market, making them entirely dependent on subsidized shipments from allies. But this isn't just about old machinery, it's the story of how a small island chose the wrong friends in the Cold War, and how the US is now weaponizing oil to force change. In the 1950s, a guerrilla uprising later known as the Cuban Revolution went on for years and eventually overthrew the dictatorship of Fulgencio Batista, bringing Fidel Castro to power on January 1, 1959. Castro consolidated power, executed many figures linked to Batista's regime, and began sweeping socialist reforms such as land redistribution and nationalization of foreign-owned businesses. Cuba broke away from close U.S. economic dependence and gradually aligned with the Soviet Union, becoming a one-party communist state and setting the stage for decades of Cold War tension with the United States. U.S. embargo from the 1960s forced Cuba deeper into the Soviet camp. Havana turned to the Soviet Union for survival, arms, cash, and oil in exchange for loyalty against Washington. Castro openly called the U.S. an enemy and Moscow a friend, refusing to side with Washington even when the USSR invaded Afghanistan. After the Soviet collapse, Cuba lost its main patron, then rebuilt an axis with Venezuela, Russia, and later closer ties with China, once again lining up with powers Washington labels as adversaries. Caracas, the capital of Venezuela, became Cuba's lifeline. Heavily subsidized Venezuelan oil kept Cuba's lights on and buses running.
I do not believe we can keep doing the same thing for over 5 decades and expect a different result.
During the Obama administration, U.S.-Cuba relations underwent a brief but major thaw after more than 50 years of Cold War-style hostility.
Even if that worked, and it hasn't for 50 years, we know from hard-earned experience that countries are more likely to enjoy lasting transformation if their people are not subjected to chaos. We are calling on Cuba to unleash the potential of 11 million Cubans by ending unnecessary restrictions on their political, social, and economic activities. In that spirit, we should not allow U.S. sanctions to add to the burden of Cuban citizens that we seek to help. To the Cuban people, America extends a hand of friendship.
The Trump administration shifted away from the Obama era thaw to a maximum pressure campaign. Trump claimed the Obama administration's policies only enriched the military, leading to more oppression of the Cuban people.
We will not lift sanctions on the Cuban regime until all political prisoners are free. Freedoms of assembly and expression are respected. All political parties are legalized. And free and internationally supervised elections. We will very strongly restrict American.
In January 2021, the U.S. redesignated Cuba as a state sponsor of terrorism, which severely hampered its ability to use the international banking system for essential imports. In July 2024, the U.S. Center for Strategic and International Studies identified 4 suspected signals intelligence sites in Cuba. A Russian naval fleet, including the nuclear-powered submarine Kazan and the frigate Admiral Borshkov, conducted a highly publicized visit to Havana. The U.S. shadowed these vessels, viewing the deployment of advanced stealth assets so close to the coast as a direct provocation. In 2025, Admiral Alvin Holsey of U.S. Southern Command testified before the Senate Armed Services Committee, warning that Russia and China were attacking U.S. interests from every direction in the Caribbean. A House Homeland Security Committee hearing titled Beijing's Air, Space, and Maritime Surveillance from Cuba examined new evidence of potential military training facilities and expanded eavesdropping capabilities. In December 2025, the U.S. enacted a formal blockade on sanctioned oil tankers traveling from Venezuela, Cuba's primary oil supplier. A month later, U.S. forces ousted and captured Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, which severed Cuba's main oil lifeline and led to a de facto total blockade. The backbone of Cuba's energy system consists of 8 major thermoelectric plants. Most are over 40 years old, far exceeding their intended design life. Blackouts have become part of daily life for Cubans, who have experienced outages in recent months lasting beyond 20 hours a day in some regions. And on March 16, 2026, Cuba suffered a total disconnection of its electrical system, plunging all 10 million inhabitants into darkness.
All my life I've been hearing
Prior
about
to the
United
blackout,
States and
President Trump has been
When will
floating
the
the
United
idea of
States
a
do it?
friendly takeover of
I do
Cuba for
believe I'll be
weeks.
the honor, having the honor of taking Cuba. That's a big honor.
Taking Cuba.
Taking Cuba in some form, yeah. Taking Cuba. I mean, whether I free it, take it, I think I could do anything I want with it. You want to know the truth? They're a very weakened nation right now. They were for a long time. Very violent leaders. Castro was a very violent leader. His brother's a very violent leader. Extremely violent. That's how they govern. I do believe I'll be the honor.
U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, a son of Cuban exiles, has repeatedly argued that the island's economic and political system simply does not work and has never worked anywhere in the
An
world.
economy that doesn't work and a political and governmental system that can't fix it. So they have to change dramatically. What they announced yesterday is not dramatic enough. It's not going to fix it. So they've got some big decisions to make over there.
But Secretary Rubio, do you support, and I know this is up to Congress, but do you support easing the trade embargo if you get more cooperation from them?
Well, I'm not going to discuss what we would talk about or not. Suffice it to say that the embargo is tied to political change on the island. The embargo is codified. And but the bottom line is their economy doesn't work. It's a non-functional economy. It's an economy that has survived. That revolution. It's not even a revolution. That thing they have has survived on subsidies from the Soviet Union and now from Venezuela. They don't get subsidies anymore, so they're in a lot of trouble. And the people in charge they don't know how to fix it. So they have to get new people in charge. That's what.
And the relationship we
Despite
have with
the aggressive
Venezuela.
rhetoric, both U.S. and Cuban officials have confirmed that serious and sensitive talks are underway. These discussions reportedly involve potential sanctions relief in exchange for significant economic or political reforms, though neither side has finalized an agreement.